I'm not there yet, so I don't know. I'm just gonna try to go in there, have fun, play hard, try to get a win. Yeah, I'm on the Raptors now, so it's all about going in there and trying to get a win.
You're also, I'm sure, expecting a lot of love from the fans.
It'd be nice, it'd be nice, but like I said, I'm trying to focus on the game as much as I can. I've already said it, I love the New York fans from day one. I still do. So, whatever happens in the Garden, I appreciate them regardless.
Will it be a little weird for you coming in as a visitor?
Definitely weird. It's weird right now. So yeah.
You talked about being in trade rumors in previous seasons, but nothing ever happened. Did it feel different this time around? Did you think that something was going to happen?
I don't know. I just woke up and I was traded. So, I just since this happened, been playing for the Raptors. Really excited. I feel like I've been playing well for the most part. Just trying to continue that trend.
You gave obviously the Knicks a lot over your time here. Was it disappointing the way things panned out?
Nah, I mean look where they are. You know what I mean? I feel like when you build something, when you're a part of something, getting back to the playoffs after a long drought, then not making it, then going back and winning a playoff series, those experiences with those people over there, coming in at 19 and then leaving at 23, they definitely helped me grow up. So I'll never forget New York. I'll never forget the place and all the people.
For the people who haven't experienced it, what's it like to have your name chanted at MSG during a playoff game?
Oh, it's crazy. Totally. That's the loudest thing ever. And it fuels you and motivates you. So, yeah.
RJ, what's it been like to have Quick with you? How much has that helped the adjustment?
He's made everything 100% easier. Just having a familiar face to come to a team with, someone who I've actually been close with for a while. So, yeah, it's been pretty good.
Did you get a chance to see any of the guys last time when you got back into town?
Nah, I went home, tried to get some stuff.
What has the past 3 weeks been like for you? What's the most difficult part of adjusting?
Most difficult part of adjusting is just that everything was new and we had a crazy road trip. So it's like I still haven't really learned anything yet. So I'm sure as we get home, I'll be able to adjust more to that. But I think being on the road was good to be able to hang out with the guys and coaches and just kind of learn the system more. So that helped.
I'm sure it was shocking, but to go back to Canada and to go back to your home, what was that like?
A lot of love, a lot of love. Seeing familiar faces in the crowd, seeing people in the arena that I've known since I was a little kid. Yeah, it's definitely special for sure.
There's an opportunity for you to maybe expand offensively, given the ball can kind of move around more.
I just play basketball, man. Whatever happens out there, I just try to do my best to help the team win.
RJ, what did you come to appreciate about the opportunity to play at Madison Square Garden? You hear visiting players all the time. It's so special for them too. Yeah. But you were doing that every night. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's too early to reflect, but.
No, I think one thing is just the fans. The fans and how it's sold out every night. It's like a show at the Garden with all the lights and everything that goes on. So I was always appreciative of that. I always loved playing in the Garden. So, to now be a visitor, I'm excited to see what that's like.
RJ, you've battled against your former teammates every day in practice. What is it going to be like tonight to go after them? And do you get up for it because you want to show them something?
Yeah, man, for sure. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be really interesting. Definitely, I've always I've played against some of the guys, that are on the team now, but I've never played against Julius in a game, so that's gonna be cool for me.
What's the biggest differences between Toronto and New York?
Differences? I mean, it's a different country. So.
That's a big difference.
It's a different country, so yeah.
Do you have a message? I know Quick came out and he had a big thing to say. Is there something that you wanted to say to the organization, to the fans?
Absolutely. I'll post it tomorrow.
When you look at you look at how the Knicks have been playing, and it's going to be a tough matchup. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league. Last 10 games. What is your mindset going in, and just on purely basketball level?
Anyone could be beat. Anyone could be beat. So you just gotta go in there, stick to the game plan, play hard, and just compete.
It'll be cool just being back in the Garden. It's where I started my career, so Just a lot of different emotions, looking forward to the game, competing, and trying to get a win.
How much did RJ kind of soften the blow being traded there with RJ?
It was good to have somebody that I was familiar with, that I knew already, especially him going back to his hometown. He could, show me a little bit of stuff he was already familiar with and comfortable with. So it was good to have somebody that I knew, that I came into the league with. It was pretty cool.
You're obviously a big part of what this team wanted to do. Just how difficult was it when you found out that you were traded?
Wasn't too difficult. I was asleep. So woke up, kind of really just woke up to it. But, once I woke up, it was just kind of like your whole life changes. Everything you know to be normal changes. So obviously difficult from that standpoint, but I understand it's a business. So.
What's the motivation for you coming into your old building against the guys that you practiced every day?
Yeah. It's always fun competing against people your friends, things like that. I think just playing against, that's really it. Playing against people is always, you always want to get the upper hand and stuff like that. But, it'll be a lot of different emotions, I'm sure, when I'm on the court. So it'll be good.
I know you have nothing to compare it to except because this has been your experience, but do you think playing in New York, playing in front of those fans, playing in front of the biggest media market for your first 4 years, does that prepare you in a way for what comes next?
Yeah, definitely. I think along with that, going to Kentucky, probably the biggest media market in college basketball, and then going to the New York Knicks, probably one of the biggest media markets in sports, period, probably top 5 in sports, is just preparing me, I think. Thick skin, really tough. I think mentally it's prepared me, and as an athlete, that's probably one of the biggest things is your mental preparation, your mental strength. It's a lot more than just physical when you get to the pro level.
You were well written in what you wrote. Why did you feel like you had to do it or wanted to do it?
Just for what the Knicks had gave to me, especially the fans, the organization, the front office, my teammates, training staff. It was a lot, like just nothing but good, memories, vibes, and when people show you respect and treat you right, you have to say thank you and say you appreciate them.
From a basketball standpoint, just what do you make of the opportunity in Toronto for yourself and the role that you have?
I think a lot of it is still the same for me as far as just my mentality, my approach to the game, as far as just trying to get better each and every day, chopping wood, carrying water, and continue to try to be the best person I can and best basketball player I can each day.
What do you think of this Knicks game, just as on a purely basketball level? I mean, this team's been one of the best defensive teams in the league last 10 games. They're clearly kind of on a mission, and how do you assess them just as an opponent?
They're a good team. They're a good team. They play hard, play tough, play together. Julius and Jalen been dominant offensively all year, and then they add some good defensive players as well. So it'll be a good challenge, a good test for us.
From a business side, I know you decided not to sign. You decided to bet on yourself. But do you look back and realize that when you did that this could happen?
I didn't decide to bet on myself. That's what God told me to do. I prayed about it, and that's what God told me to do. So all my decisions that's how I make my decisions. I just didn't decide myself. It was much more than just myself. But really just letting God lead and guide me. I think that's been, my mantra my whole life as far as my basketball career, and we'll continue to do that.
Do you feel any added pressure in a game against a former team to do something great in front of your fans and your old coaches, players?
No, not at all. Try to look at it as the same game as much as possible. Obviously, it's a lot different, but just go out and play my game, be aggressive, find shots for my teammates as well, defend, rebound, and just going with the mindset that I'm going to make something happen.
What's the most difficult part of relocating from New York to Toronto?
It's even colder in Toronto. I didn't know it was going to be that cold. I got to go buy some more jackets because it's freezing, like below zero.
Do you think Tibbs right now is been staying up trying to find a way to figure you, close you out tonight?
I'm sure I'll get blitzed in probably every pick and roll, dribble handoff. But nah, Tibbs my guy. He works really hard. He's always in the lab, so I'm sure he's been ready for this.
You played against OG your whole career, obviously. Why is he such a challenge as a defensive player?
I think his size is pretty good, and just the way he can active hands. About 6'7", 6'8", can guard in multiple positions. So presents a challenge for sure.
A lot
Would you
of
be
people.
surprised if we see him tonight?
I'm sorry?
Would you be surprised if we see him tonight? Like, he'll guard a point guard, he'll guard center, I don't know.
I'm not sure. I think he'll probably go RJ, but, I don't know, so we'll see.
A lot of people look at the trade and say it's a win-win for both the Knicks and the Raptors. When you look at it, do you look at it the same way? Do you think, okay, it makes sense for both teams, or did you kind of look at it like, I don't know, maybe you wanted to stay here, I don't know.
I look at it as a business perspective side first. I mean, both teams did what they wanted to do. I'm glad to be here in Toronto. Had a great time in New York. I'm glad to be here with an organization that obviously wants me to be here. And like I said, I'm just here to continue to try to get wins for the organization and continue to try to be better on and off the floor. So
You've always looked at the big spotlight as your stage. Now going up against Jalen, what kind of matchup and what's that going to mean tonight?
Well, it's still basketball, still 5-on-5 at the end of the day. It's not just me versus Jalen, but it'll be good to go up against somebody that has shown me a lot, and I feel like I've showed him a lot as well when he got here. So it'll be a good matchup.
When you step into MSG tonight, what are you most looking forward to?
I'd probably say just probably just the energy in the building. It's gonna be real high. It'll be a lot of fun, I think.
Did you look forward to see Isaiah?
My son. I miss my son, man. I'm gonna have to tell him, it's like an abandoned child, so I have to check up on my guy.
Are you an emotional guy, or do you think emotions is something that gets to you, or no?
I don't cry during movies, so I'd probably say not that much. But this one will be. I'm gonna try not to cry, but it'll be a good one for sure.
Manu, you've talked about kind of having your own preparation when it comes to books that you read, podcasts. Have you changed podcasts or books that you're reading for this chapter of your life right now?
I'm reading Chopwood Carry Water for the third time, so I'm still reading that book right now. And then my mom got me a book. I think it's called One Word That'll Change Your Life. So reading that a little bit. And the Bible. You gotta read the Bible.
Quick, one last one for me. You pointed out Randall and everything he's meant to you, and afterwards him saying that he'd always be if you needed him. What did that mean to you?
It's good. Talked to him last night a little bit. That's my guy, though. Appreciate him for everything he's done. Looking out for me, the advice, the mental, just the mental piece, like the preparation and the training that he's gave me. So I appreciate him.
All right. Great stuff. Once upon a time, to Raptor fans, you may not remember this, but John Salmons told God not to go to Toronto. So I'm really happy that God's come around on the whole Toronto thing, and that Immanuel Quickley was guided here, told to bet on himself, a notion that he denied, which I'm kind of happy too, because it feels like he just knows what he's worth. And I'm really glad. He's your rival, though. I'm saying no, as in I did not cry. I know exactly who cried, and there are many of them, but that's okay. Let's move on from Pascal Siakam. The Toronto Raptors are heading into the next 3 weeks as buyers or sellers or buyers. Are they sellers? Are they buyers? Everything is available. And it is very interesting. It's extremely interesting the number of directions this team can go. I used to fire up a trade machine, and I used to, be like, okay, beyond OG Anunoby, what can we really trade, right? And then you start thinking about this is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I do love this flexibility that the Toronto Raptors have earned themselves. And every single time I used to go into the trade machine, I used to be like, okay, I don't want to trade OG Anunoby, but it seems like that's the one piece that the Raptors have that is of any significant value. Apart from that, their pick equity, given the fact that they have traded away their picks, they've traded away multiple seconds. They also traded away their current first-round pick, which is owed to the San Antonio Spurs, top 6 protected. It did make adding anything kind of difficult for the Toronto Raptors, right? Without giving away an OG Anunoby, which I, again, did not want to do, unless, of course, you were getting a young haul like RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley. Now that the Raptors have those guys, and they got a boatload of draft picks, granted, not the most valuable draft picks, but we'll talk about that too. What I wanted to do today was I wanted to take you through multiple things. Number one, I want to take you through the cap sheet. Then I want to talk about all the assets the Raptors can actually dangle, which includes picks, players, whatever. I want to talk about what the value of those assets is, because I feel like a lot of people just assume Otto's worth nothing, Chris Boucher's worth nothing, and that's not really what I've heard. So, Iceman like Gervin, our favorite commenter. That's sarcasm. You're not my favorite commenter, but like, I mean, flexibility, our new code word for losing. No, flexibility is a code word for flexibility. You should really look it up. Do you think the Pelicans are actually shopping Herb Jones? I heard this about 30 minutes ago, and I immediately fired up the trade machine for a trade for Herb Jones. I love Herb Jones. I think he really, really fits what the Raptors need. I think some people may find this controversial. I think he's an even better defender than OG Anunoby. So, Ty Cornfield, Grady Dick is definitely not playing a minute tonight. What makes you so sure? Anyways, okay, let's get into this. So the first thing I want to do is I want to look at what we have. Okay, so to those of you on a cell phone, I'm very sorry. This is a little tiny, but long story short, to keep this brief, the Raptors have a lot of flexibility in the sense that they can either be buyers or sellers. They can be a team with cap space this summer, or they can operate above the cap. There's a lot of stuff that they can do. And again, the contracts that run through next year become expirings really quickly. Really, the large chunk of what they have committed long term is basically Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Jakob Poeltl, Grady Dick, right? And when you factor in the fact that they're not going to let Immanuel Quickley go, you can add Immanuel Quickley to that bunch too. But other than that, you know, you have Bruce Brown, who's a convertible asset, which is a really interesting asset because not only is he super in demand, not only does every single contender really want him right now, but also you have to factor in that he has the ability to become a free agent this summer, because the team that holds his contract can either choose to exercise or not exercise his team option. This is something that is very valuable to front offices because he is a serviceable player. Granted, he's not worth $22 million, but among players that make around 16 to 15 million, maybe even 17 to 18 million, he is really valuable. So even though he's slightly overpaid, the contract length and the fact that there's a team option on it makes him extremely valuable. Then you have Gary Trent Jr., an unrestricted free agent. Yes, you can absolutely lose him for nothing. Yeah, I feel like this might be the move, right? Dennis Schroeder is, and Chris Boucher also is, signed through next year. Chris Boucher on a descending contract, Dennis Schroeder on an ascending contract. Basically, they're making the same amount of money, and they're almost in tandem. They're like a tandem contract of $24 million combined, okay? 24.1 last year, 23.9 next year. It's basically like $24 million a year for those two guys. Then you have Scotty Barnes, whose rookie extension, his extension can be signed this summer. And make no mistake, the Raptors will attempt to get that done this summer. Then you have Thaddeus Young and Otto Porter, same book, right? They're $14.3 million combined, and they can be shipped out together. There's no restrictions on them. They're both unrestricted free agents. You have Kyra Lewis, who has a pretty significant cap hold and a pretty significant they have a pretty significant offer on him. And basically they'll have to let that expire and then have to not pull up the extension. And then, sorry, let me say that again. I'm not a cap buff, but I tried to be pretty researched on this one. Effectively, when a player hits restricted free agency when you're a rookie, there's you can pick up their fourth year. If not, you have to extend them a qualifying offer. So by extending him a qualifying offer, not extending him a qualifying offer, he becomes a restricted free agent. You can re-sign him to a deal that is more suited to what he's currently worth. So if they like what they see in him as he was down in the G League today, all gas, no brakes, a lot of that, had trouble finishing apparently. I did not watch the game, but one of our channel commenters was down there, and I kept in touch with him during the game and asked him for his thoughts on him, and I'll definitely go watch that a little bit later. But I've had a lot of time to watch Kyra Lewis, and yeah, I feel like this could be one of those third string guards with a little bit more juice and upside than maybe a Delano Banton or a David Johnson. Certainly still has the lottery potential, and maybe this is a guy that if you see something in him over the next couple of months, maybe this is one of those players that you sign to like a 3 year, 6 million, 3 year, 8 million, maybe 3 year, 8 million. And then you just bat on upside that if at some point during that contract he pops, then he's a hell of an asset, right? As a backup guard, maybe to replace Dennis Schroeder or something like that. Ironically, draft day comparison for Kyrie Lewis, Dennis Schroeder. Then you have Grady Dick. I don't think he's going anywhere, but in the next sheet, I'll show you like that. I do believe that he is gettable potentially if the right offer, if there's a significant offer on the table and the Raptors choose to buy at the deadline, Grady Dick might be like something that sweetens the pot just enough to get it done. Then you have Jalen McDaniels, who's regrettably on 4.7 million next year. I think he is definitely someone that you want to move right now if you can. And then you have Immanuel Quickley, who has a cap hold of about $12 million this summer. So that means that you can technically clear up a whole bunch of cap space. You can have his cap hold. And before you sign him to his extension, you can use that cap space. If you were, for instance, I don't know, to go after an OG Anunoby or something like that in the offseason, you could definitely make that work. A lot of people have said, well, isn't it super unethical if we try to bring back OG Anunoby? Well, I would say, hey, it could have been another way, right? You could have let them keep the RJ Barrett contract. They don't get OG Anunoby this season. And then you clear up the cap space anyway somehow. And maybe you traded Pascal Siakam only. And then that way you could use OG Anunoby's cap hold, like the way you're using Immanuel Quickley's cap hold, to clear up the cap space and then make a huge offer to Immanuel Quickley. Do you know what I mean? Like you could have gotten Immanuel Quickley and kept OG Anunoby too, potentially, by extending him a restricted free agency offer that they couldn't match because allegedly they want 18 million. And they knew they were kind of lowballing him. And that if he played well, like they were trying to suppress his minutes a little bit. Very underhanded move by the Knicks because he clearly deserved more minutes than he was getting in New York. And they kept playing Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart. They have a plethora of guards right now. And they're kind of doing the same thing to Quentin Grimes right now. It's kind of that's how they operate. So I would look at that as they kind of traded a guy that there was no way they were going to be able to keep, because that's the thing with restricted free agency. Someone out there is going to have cap space. The free agent market is going to dry. Pascal Siakam is going back to Indiana. And then suddenly Immanuel Quickley is like one of the best guards in the league that's available for, restricted free agency. And there's already this entire rumor out there, and his agent will be able to clarify that the Knicks are not willing to go above 18. And there's plenty of teams that for Immanuel Quickley would be willing to go above 25 to 26. So the Knicks would be in a really pretty shitty situation in terms of luxury tax hell if, some team just decided to just say, okay, screw it. We're going 32 million, 31 million. So anyways, I digress. Beyond that, you have Jordan Nwora. He's going off unrestricted free agency. Garrett Temple, same deal. And then you have a bunch of two-ways. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. This is from Blake Murphy's article. And this, I think, if you haven't read Blake's article on the cap situation from 4 days ago on Sportsnet, it's a great one. I'm just going to read it out just so that everyone's clear on some stuff. And there's also a new wrinkle to the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers picks that came back to us, like restrictions on the pick that I wasn't aware of, that I'll share with you as well. 2023-2024 impact, cap situation, luxury tax room, trade exception, future moves. The Raptors sent out $37.89 million in this trade and took back $30.72 million, giving them an additional $7.17 million in breathing room. They were already well above the cap, so now there's no impact there, but this gives them significant breathing room under the luxury tax now. So effectively, you're free to read this at your own disposal, but basically because the Raptors gifted out more salary than they took back in the Pascal Siakam trade, and I believe they did the same thing in the OG Anunoby trade, or did they not? I think they did do the same thing in the OG Anunoby trade. They basically created a pair of trade exceptions, and trade exceptions can be automatically applied whenever you have. It also offers you a little bit of flexibility. Now, obviously, the Raptors have had royally huge trade exceptions in the past, and that they haven't used them. But that's also because they were floating so close to the luxury tax line. So now you have trade exceptions, which means technically you can send those trade exceptions out, which means you could potentially trade, I don't know, a player who makes $5 million for a player who makes $10 million to help another team maybe avoid tax hell, right? And there are a few teams out there that are, they're encroaching very, very close to the line. The new CBA does, impose some very serious penalties on teams that are operating on the second apron. There's also sorts of restrictions on who you can trade for, what you can do in trades, etc. So if there's a team that maybe thought they were going to be super competitive and, I don't know, they have their pick, then maybe they want to avoid the luxury tax and they have a young player who makes $4 or $5 million. And I don't know, you have a young player who makes $2 million and then you can make that swap and boom, you save them from, I don't know, something like that. So it's a little bit like the Kyra Lewis situation, right? Like, the New Orleans Pelicans were like, hey, we need to clear our books a little bit. We're getting close to where we have luxury tax payments. So, anyways, teams, okay, summer 2024 impact cap space team for the first time in years. I doubt this is going to happen, but as Blake says, there's not necessarily a change to the Raptors 2024 offseason outlook here. The numbers are the same. The perspective has changed. The trade is effectively salary neutral for 2024-2025 as all the players involved are or can be free agents. Right. If you don't pick up the team option on Bruce Brown, they're basically all free agents. The Raptors have 7 players under contract next year: RJ, Jakob, Dennis, Chris, Barnes, Grady, Jalen. Entirely questionable. Some of those names are moved too. They also have restricted free agents rights on Quickley. The 7 players on guaranteed contracts are set to earn $88.8 million. The salary cap for next year is currently projected to be $142 million with a luxury tax line of $172. Those estimates are a bit more conservative than they have been in the past due to some uncertainty around TV-based revenue at the regional level. The gap could go as high as 149.6, which means a tax line about 181.8. There's some uncertainty there right now as well. If the cap comes in at 142 and the Raptors renounce all their rights to maximize cap space, except for Quickley's, and decline Brown's option, they can get to about $36 million in pure cap space. By the way, even more if they trade some of these players. Now, here's my trade value sheet. Okay, so you'll look at here. You have Scotty Barnes here right now, and I've got the second column as availability, which is how available I think they are if the Raptors got a phone call about these guys, right? So there's 2 guys that I think are very unavailable, if not completely untouchable, and that's Scotty Barnes and Immanuel Quickley. I don't think RJ Barrett is overly available, and I think Grady Dick is pretty unavailable. I feel like the Raptors would be not super happy to move Grady Dick, but because he makes $6 million, $5 million, and he is still, there might be someone out there who's just like, damn, I really like that guy in the draft. I was really trying to trade up for him. Right now, not enough minutes have been played for anyone to change their mind too much on Grady. Obviously, no one is higher on him than they were 3 months ago, but certainly there might be some people who remain very bullish on him, and you just might have a trade that's too good to pass up on. So I don't put it at 0 for Grady, but I think they're really high on him still, and Darko has constantly referred to him as part of the future, etc. In terms of players that are 100% available, in my opinion, it's Chris Boucher, Thaddeus Young, Gary Trent Jr., Otto Porter Jr., and Jalen McDaniels. I also think there's the Thunder 2024 first. I don't think there's any chance in hell the Raptors pick 3 picks or 4 picks in the 2024 draft, a draft that they're allegedly not super happy about. I do want to amend a couple things. So in terms of trade value, on the picks, right? The Pacers 2024 first unprotected, I have written here, and the 2026 first unprotected. Neither of those picks are unprotected. Here are the updated figures as per Blake Murphy. And I just, thanks to Blake for tweeting this out. Because I tweeted out earlier that, hey, man, like if the Pacers season goes to hell, like they could end up with like terrible record and maybe they win the lottery and we get it. At which point he clarified, no, the pick is top 3 protected. So the 2024 Pacers pick is top 3 protected. And the 2026 first is top 4 protected. In the event that the 2024 pick does not convey to the Raptors, it converts immediately into 2 seconds. I believe this is because of the step-in rule. So basically, do you know what I mean? Like you can't just extend into extensions, because if it were to be able to be, for instance, like the 2024 pick, if it was to turn to 2025, then they would have technically conveyed 2025 and 2026, which is not allowed under the CBA. So there goes the very highly unlikely chance that the Pacers end up completely tanking the season and end up with a top 3 pick. They will keep their pick and it will become 2 seconds for the Raptors. This scenario is like less than a 1% chance. Obviously, there's some really horrible teams out there. I don't think the Pacers are going to be bottom 6, bottom 7, or bottom 8. So chances are the only way that the Pacers would keep their 2024 pick is if, I don't know, they end up like 12th or 11th, and then they end up winning the lottery or getting one of the top 3 picks. Again, we're talking about 1%. Like I think there's like a 20% chance they miss the playoffs. And like once they miss the playoffs, I think there's like a 1 to 2% chance they get a top 3 pick. So yeah, it's like really slim. Most likely you can assume that pick is going to be with the Raptors. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to, okay. So now we're just going to get to some trades that I was thinking of. Trades that I think, look, like if you've been following the show, you know that we've been doing some trade-in shows. Like people call in, they pitch their trades, whatever. Some of those trades end up being like really good, and they end up being like a source of inspiration for some of the trades I'm going to propose now. Some of them are, I think, unrealistic, and maybe, you have to look at a trade from both sides. You have to be like, hey, what team actually needs Bruce Brown? How does he fit into what they do? What calculus is going to go into that? You can't just give Bruce Brown to the OKC Thunder and just be like, that's what they need. You know what I mean? They have Kason Wallace. They have Lou Dort. They have a lot of Bruce Brown adjacent players, right? So you have to think about it from both sides. You also have to think about it, obviously, from the Raptors side, right? You might want to trade for a certain player, a certain pick, or you might want to strip down everything. But what are the Raptors really trying to do? So in that vein, I want to talk about what the Raptors are actually trying to do. I think the Raptors are a very option conscious or option obsessed franchise. I think there's a reason why they didn't want to offer Pascal Siakam a top 5, a 5-year deal. And today I was listening to Zach Lowe and Bill Simmons talk about it. And man, it is a revelation when you really start to absorb what the rest of the NBA thinks about Pascal Siakam in this light, because they were talking about him and they were just like, I don't know. Bill Simmons said he was like, when they did their player rankings, he had Pascal Siakam 60th. Now that's crazy. I think Pascal Siakam's definitely better than the 60th best player in the league. But when Zach Lowe countered, he said, oh my God. Okay. Leanne, I don't know if you're watching this show right now, but please stop messaging. I can't turn my phone off for some reason. I don't know how to turn it to silent. So just please stop. Okay. I've lost my train of thought. Okay. Refresh. Where the hell was I? Waving Temple is not going to happen, guy. Okay. Siakam's value. Thank you so much, Jerome. So knowing that was the value, I think that might explain why you got the return that you got, right? And again, Brian Windhorst talked about it as well. He said there was significant trepidation from around the league of anyone wanting to sign him to 5 years. There's like a pushback on it. They're like, what kind of player is he going to be? Does he know how to shoot? Can he shoot long term? So all of these things factored into the value. But then when Bill Simmons and Zach Lowe were talking about it, they're just like, well, if you can get a real number 2 next to Tyrese, then Pascal Siakam makes so much sense as the number 3 option. And then you're just like, whoa. This is how the NBA media actually sees Pascal Siakam. The same media, by the way, that voted him 2-time All-NBA. Same media, same coaches who, one time voted him to All-Star. That's how they see him right now. But that's not how Raptor fans see him. So you got to ask yourself, if you're still someone who's kind of stuck on this, we shouldn't have traded him, as I know some people are. You want to build a team around a player that the average general manager sees as a number 2 or number 3 option in the NBA. He's much closer in the minds of NBA general managers right now to a Tobias Harris than he is to a Jason Tatum, if that makes sense. These media guys don't realize Pascal is a real number 2 and has only improved. Sure, man. I mean, I think there's a really solid case to be made that if he's paired with like a super duper star, then you're really good. But please ask yourself, who are the real number 2s, like legit number 2 options in the league? Think about it. We're talking maybe Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, right? Is that a 1-2? I guess. And who are the real dominant 1-2s? Paul George, Kawhi Leonard? It's really hard to Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, right? Like, think about what is the perception of the Kings around the NBA right now? Do people project those guys to win like a championship? No. Do you think the average general manager polled right now would take Pascal Siakam over Domantas Sabonis? I don't think so. So that's kind of my point. So if you're a kind of like soft number two, like if you're not like the best number two in the league, then I think there's a fair case to be made that some people might see you as a really like the most elite number three. So what I'm saying is I think he's a 2.5 right now, right? 2.5. His impact metrics say 2.53 right now. Okay. Like last night, if you look at the advanced box score from the Pacers game, the best player, obviously, Tyrese Halliburton. The second best player was probably Miles Turner. Third best player was Buddy Hield. The fourth best player on the court was Pascal Siakam. So if he's their second best player, then great. That means he's doing a great job because their second best player currently is probably Miles Turner. And I don't think there's a huge gap between Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner. I just don't. So we will see. But some people feel like there really is. Anyways, I digress. Let's move on from that. I think the Raptors will let this play out. Right now, they're 10 games under 500. Obviously, they would prefer to make the play-in. I think that is the goal. I think they would love to make the play-in. But second, if that becomes secondary to implementing good habits, making sure that RJ, IQ, Scotty, potentially Grady, these guys get their reps. They have a whole bunch of expendables, what I would like to say, expendables, right? And these guys basically have value around the league. I feel like Raptor fans don't fully appreciate the fact that Chris Boucher does have value around the league. There's some general manager that thinks he might become the best bench big on his team, and that wouldn't be Cap. He's done it before. The issue with the Raptors right now is top-end talent, right? Top-end talent. It's not really depth. The depth struggles because the top-end talent is not good enough yet. But if you really, like, if you put Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey in place of Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett, most people would be picking the rest of this roster to win a championship, wouldn't they? Or close to. Let me think about that roster. Okay, so if you take Immanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes out and you put Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey on this team right now. So you have, think about it. I'm not suggesting do it. I'm just saying think about what the team would be. It'd be Joel Embiid. I don't know what the hell your four would be. Who would be your four if you didn't have Scotty Barnes? Boucher, maybe? I don't know. Boucher, RJ Barrett, Gary Trent Jr., and Tyrese Maxey. And then you have a whole bunch of depth off the bench. I think that's like a really, really solid playoff team. Probably. So I'm just trying to, Otto Porter, Jakob Poeltl off the bench. I mean, like there's a lot of depth, right? So I think most people looking at this are like, hey, Otto, that was a solid guy. Like he was a rotation guy on a championship team 2 years ago. Dennis Schroeder, that's a solid guy. He was a rotation guy on a championship team. Jakob Poeltl, also a solid guy. I think he could probably play 25 minutes of spot minutes and he could be really great insurance in case we face a really big body. All of these things for a contender are worth at least a first-round pick. All of them. Let's not even talk about Bruce Brown. I mean, Bruce Brown is incredible. And Bruce Brown might be worth multiple firsts, provided they're really bad firsts, or maybe one really good first down the line. So let's talk about these trades. Jonte would be the starting four. Yikes. I love Jonte, but I don't think so. I don't know. You guys are having a different conversation. All right, let's get into this. So here are my trades, and hopefully this video can be under an hour. Okay, trade number one. I don't know if people are going to like this one, but Andrew Wiggins is coming home. You got the Maple Mamba. You got the Maple Mamba, and now it's time for Maple Jordan to come back as well. Kind of sucks to take Andrew Wiggins' contract here, but the Raptors probably know Andrew Wiggins just about as well as any other team, and if they know what's going on with him and they think that they can fix it, Moses Moody would be the prize here, okay? Now, I'm not saying I love this deal, but you got to give something to get something, and Moses Moody really, really fits what you want to do and how you want to play. and they don't seem to be willing to give them up cheaply. So maybe the compromise here is you kind of get off a whole bunch of guys that aren't really a huge part of your future. You also get a serviceable center that, in my opinion, has been he's been a starting center on a championship team in Kevon Looney. He's not having a great season so far. I think he's a pretty serviceable backup, and he's still a big rotation big, and he's 27 years old. I don't see any reason that this deal sucks for the Raptors. The only thing that sucks about it is now you have RJ Barrett and Andrew Wiggins signed up to like $50 million. How bad is it? Well, it depends. Can you rehab it? Can you figure it out? Because if you could figure it out, you're getting one of the best transition, finishers in the league, and a really dynamic one at that, to pair with Scotty Barnes and Immanuel Quickley. So if Andrew Wiggins gets back to even, 90%, 80% of what he was 2 years ago or a year ago, and there's nothing about him that's athletically on the decline, you think he's 28 years old, like he could be a really interesting one. Same theory for the Hawks. Bruce Brown for DeAndre Hunter, AJ Griffin, and a 2024 first-round pick. This will be contingent on how much the Hawks are willing to give up AJ Griffin and how valuable they deem Bruce Brown to be. I think the Hawks are a Bruce Brown for DeAndre Hunter trade away from really turning around their season. They've had a couple of really impressive performances lately. DeJounte Murray hitting game winners. It's really cool. I think Bruce Brown really helps that team, massively helps that team. And Landry Fields strikes me as a smart guy who would realize that pretty quickly. Plus, they get off of the long-term contract of DeAndre Hunter. For the Raptors, why do you want DeAndre Hunter, man? Well, he's a pretty good defender, and I think he kind of fits what you do. Is he a little bit overpaid? Hell yes. But how much is he overpaid? Well, he's overpaid by just about as much as AJ Griffin is underpaid for now. And AJ Griffin is 20, and you get a first-round pick for your troubles, and I wouldn't mind taking on this deal, right? I mean, hey, $20 million with the cap going up to potentially 150, I don't think it's that big a deal, man. DeAndre Hunter can still play minutes in the NBA. And again, with Darko and Jama here, unless you identify a character flaw with DeAndre Hunter, give your development staff a chance. This is a top 5 pick. He could pop for you. I think this is a good haul for Bruce Brown and pretty reflective of what I think Bruce is actually worth. But maybe they would be a little bit finicky about giving up AJ Griffin plus a first-round pick. I think that's a lot. So maybe you just have to settle for AJ in a second, or maybe just AJ, but it depends on how you feel about AJ Griffin. I don't love his defense, but man, his shooting would be very welcome. Also, DeAndre Hunter's been shooting really well. So you're really getting 2 shooters for a non-shooter. Kind of a good thing around Scotty Barnes. Moving on. Oh my God, why does Rob keep taking back shitty contracts? Well, I'm taking back the shitty contract of D'Angelo Russell because it'll be expiring this offseason. Taking 2 young players back, Jalen Hood-Schifino and Max Christie, one of whom is 20. I think the other one's 21. And you get a 2029 first-round pick. In exchange, the Lakers get 2 guys who shoot a lot of threes and can make them better. Plus, they get off D'Angelo Russell's contract. I don't know if the Lakers do this. They would have to be pretty much just conceding that Jalen Hood-Schifino is not in their plans. I don't think Max Christie is some great prospect, but he is a shooter. And I don't think Jalen Hood-Schifino is some great prospect, but he did just go top 16, top 7, top 18 in last year's draft. If the Raptors like him, I think this might be worth it. Plus, you get a very valuable asset in the 2029 first-round pick. Moving on, Davis Bertans and Ousmane Dieng for Jakob Poeltl. I can hear it. Yuck. Why? Again, same theory. Ousmane Dieng, top 12 pick 2 years ago. I think he has some interesting potential. It's obvious that with all their upcoming picks, let me just pull this off the screen. Hang on. Chad Wellington. Oh, you're back. The same person who said what? What did you say yesterday? That was so stupid that I can't remember. What did you say? I think you said DeAnthony Melton is not better than Bruce Brown. I'm pretty sure that was you. You should go follow golf, bro. You don't get basketball at all. Anyways, I think these are pretty realistic trades personally, but you could say, there's I think there's a less there's like a less infantile way to say this, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like you could be like, hey, I think that the Lakers wouldn't give up, this first round pick. I think the Raptors would have to give up more, but you are being delusional. It's such an idiotic take from someone who thinks that, again, Bruce Brown is a better player than DeAnthony Melton. I'm so glad you admit that, man. Anyways, let's move on. So that specific thing that we were talking about here of like, why do you do this? Well, look, most teams have about 2 to 3 years with a first round pick before they start to decide whether or not that first round pick is in their cards long term. Hopefully no one is deciding, unless it's super bad, within the first year. It's usually like you give 2 years, then you start making a judgment around year 3. Most teams are not nearly as patient as the Raptors were with Malachi Flynn. Right? Like, I think for instance, like the Heat, they gave up on Precious Achiuwa in 1 year. They were just like, peace out. Right? So I think for the Thunder, because they have such a boatload of picks, they have in my opinion, like they have the luxury of being less patient with picks. So if a guy like Ousmane Dieng is just not showing it, then they have a plethora of wings, guards, picks coming up. They can move on from him. I think they could really use a Jakob Poeltl. The Raptors, weirdly enough, could use a Davis Bertans and a clear cap sheet. I think Jakob is a little bit overpaid, personally, and does not really fit with what you want to do with Scotty Barnes. You need a stretch big with Scotty. Jonte plus is basically it. But Davis Bertans, not quite the defender, obviously, that Jakob Poeltl is, but he is a shooter. So you're going to suffer defensively, but at the very least, your offense is going to flow better with a stretch big. I'm just telling you, like if winning is not the priority here, right? Then you might as well get the offensive prototype of the pieces that you want to play with going forward so you can develop some chemistry and some rhythm. It's much easier to plug and play. Let's say next year you use some assets to trade for said stretch big that you want to play with. Well, it's going to be much easier to reorient your offense by plugging Davis Bertans and Jonte Porter out and putting that guy in than saying, I don't know, developing all these habits with, a totally clogged paint. Do you know what I mean? Like, I hope you understand what I mean. Like, you can't get a demo of what Scotty Barnes can do if you keep playing like a drop big, a guy who's just posting up the whole time like Jakob Poeltl. I'm not saying he's not a useful player. He's a very useful player. But right now, the Raptors are in a position where he literally has to play 35 minutes a night. That's not a good position to be in. I mean, I think the Christian Coloco, situation, him being waived and everything, I think it changes the calculus on this team's future going forward in a really major way, because I think had he been healthy, he probably would be playing 20 minutes a game for you right now. That's my opinion. So, and I think that was the plan coming into this season. So I don't know. I think you really, really need to look into potentially moving off of that contract. And also don't know if he wants to be here, right? That's a conversation you need to have with him, because he signed up to be on a team with Pascal Siakam. He got traded to a team with Fred VanVleet. Those guys are gone. He initially came to a team with Nick Nurse. He's gone. So it might just be like Jakob would be like, hey, I got the money. I wouldn't mind going and trying to win with OKC. OKC could really use him. They're not losing anything of super significance here, in my opinion. It's not like they're opening up the war chest or anything. They're just getting a guy who has a pretty movable contract, who can provide a little bit of help inside for when, in fact, they're the number 2 seed in the West. Like, this is not something to sneeze at. You don't know. Injuries could happen at any point. You could potentially, you could lose one of your core pieces for an entire year. Chet, Shea, whatever. You're healthy right now. Why not do this trade? I think it makes a lot of sense. I think if I was the Raptors, I would try to even squeeze out a second, but I don't want to be greedy. So if the Raptors believe in Ousmane Dieng as a prospect, I think this deal makes sense. Okay, moving on. This is not the deal I wanted to flash. Let me move off that. Okay, Bruce Brown for Spencer Dinwiddie and Day'Ron Sharpe. Why do the Nets do this? Honestly, Spencer Dinwiddie has quite quit on that team. He's protesting. If they still want to save their season right now, they don't own their pick. Okay? They don't own their pick. So this whole they're bad right now and they could just tank. I don't think so. They're also very familiar with Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown can also do a lot of stuff that Spencer Dinwiddie could do in terms of ball handling, etc. So I think this is a deal that makes sense. it kind of depends on how high they are on Daron Sharp. Obviously, like a delusional fan would be like, why don't we get Nick Claxton? Well, they're not giving up Nick Claxton. They may see too much value in Daron Sharp, but Daron is a high school teammate of Scotty Barnes. I think he is going to get better. I think he's one of the most improved players in the NBA this year. He's still 21, 22 years old. I think he's worth it. I would go as far as adding maybe a second round pick to this to make this work. That's how much I would value Daron Sharp back in this deal, but maybe not necessarily, because I think Bruce Brown could net the Nets this offseason. I think as an expiring, he could net them like a first round pick back. So really, this is a swap for Bruce Brown for Spencer Dinwiddie. I think like the Daron Sharp part is just Bruce Brown plus like what Bruce Brown would be worth this summer. Next up, another Bruce Brown pick, but Bruce Brown trade, but this time you're trading away that OKC pick in 2024 to minimize the number of picks that you have in 2024 draft. The Raptors once again trade with the team that they hate in the New York Knicks, and they get Evan Fournier, Quentin Grimes, and Milwaukee's 2025 first round pick. Why do I want Milwaukee's 2025 first round pick? Is it because I'm reacting to the fact that they nearly lost or probably lost? I don't know. I didn't see the end of the game to the Detroit Pistons last night. No, it's because I think Brook Lopez is getting old, and because Damian Lillard is getting old, and Giannis is not going to be young forever. And there are teams that just kind of fall off a cliff one year, and you're just like, I don't know where'd that come from. And I think Milwaukee could potentially be that team next year. I know that seems kind of crazy, but it happens, right? I don't really trust Adrian Griffin as a coach. I don't trust that front office to surround Giannis with the right pieces. I feel like they could be worse than people think they're going to be. And look, I mean, they could also be better, but I would love that pick. And Quentin Grimes, hell of an interesting defender. And apparently he's not very happy in New York, and he already knows Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. And I think it might just be something worth swinging on. Weirdly enough, Evan Fournier, also a pretty good player, right? Like he has a team option for the next year. Don't look at that 2 years. He has a team option for the next year. You can easily decline it. He becomes an expiring. So you clear that cap space off your books. Quentin Grimes, I mean, you can re-sign him this offseason. You can extend him a qualifying offer or an extension or whatever. Probably won't come too expensive. He defends, he takes a ton of threes. He's a 3-and-D, wing. He's 6'5". He's got like pretty long arms. I think he could be like a pretty serviceable role player for you. So yeah, I really wouldn't mind that. Okay, moving on. Otto Porter for Svi Mykhailiuk. Okay, the Celtics have a trade exception, and this allows them to use it. They have a $6 million trade exception in which they can absorb more money in as they put out. And the Raptors already know Svi Mykhailiuk. Honestly, they're not going anywhere this year. Otto's barely playing for them. And the Celtics, they get a massive upgrade, in my opinion. They get something that's very valuable. They get some defense. They don't have a ton of defense, but, what am I saying? They have a ton of defense, but they don't have a ton of defense coming off the bench. They have Sam Hauser and whatever. So I think Otto Porter just fits in beautifully with what they do. Obviously, you're going to give something to get something. And the Celtics here are going to give a top 3 protected 2025 first round pick. There's no expectation that pick is going to be anything but like a 26th overall pick. But I have some faith in the 2025 draft. And I would like to start taking some of our 2024 draft picks and turning them into 2025 and 2026 draft picks, just because I think that draft is going to be a little bit more valuable. And who knows, maybe the Celtics have a bad year and you get the 21st pick in a pretty deep draft. Like that could be pretty decent. And I think that's pretty good value for Otto Porter. Plus, Scotty loves Svi Mykhailiuk. Maybe, maybe second time's the charm. Okay, Kings trade. This is the one that Little John proposed last night. And I loved it. Which is Bruce Brown for Kevin Huerter and a first-round pick, top 3 protected 2026. I have no expectations that the Kings are going to be bad in 2026. So most likely this pick is basically going to be, 18 to 22 in 2026. But I like that draft a lot already. It looks deep. Obviously hard to project a draft 2 years out, but I think it's a good draft from what I can see right now. And hey, man, like I think Kevin Huerter helps. I have been on record saying a guard who rebounds, moves, understands 0.5 offense, could be unlocked playing next to a Scotty Barnes. I think Scotty Barnes is a better passer than almost every single player on the Kings. Like I really do. And I think Kevin Huerter and him are just going to have great synergy. If Grady Dick, Kevin Huerter, like, I don't know. I think there's like a lot. there. Immanuel Quickley, like you're just giving Scotty moving targets, really, to just find open. And he's 25 years old, man. You're getting a younger player. You're getting a player that really fits. You're getting shooting around Scotty, and you get a 2026 first round pick. Why do the Kings do this? Honestly, for a team that creates so much space, having probably the best cutter, if not the second best cutter, and a pretty good defender, by the way, in Bruce Brown. They've had some embarrassing losses lately, and I think Bruce Brown would really fit in to what they want to do, man. Like, I can't even think of a better fit for Bruce Brown than Sacramento. And I wonder if all the talks that the Raptors had with Sacramento have made their front offices a little bit more familiar with each other and what they want to do. The Raptors probably have a very good idea of how the Kings actually feel about Kevin Huerter, and they might even be able to extract the second round pick out of this, because I think the Kings want to move off that contract. And I think if you're the Raptors, like, you have to look at Kevin Huerter as a buy low right now, because I mean, I like him personally. I like him. He's been on the bench a lot this year. They've tried to start Chris Duarte. They've, preferred Malik Monk. That's fine. I like Kevin Huerter. And it's just, I'm not moving off of it. I like this player, and I think he fits really well with what the Raptors want to do. Another Kings Raptors trade. This one's a little bit stranger, but again, this will be contingent on whether or not the Kings want to move off of Sasha Vezenkov. Again, 3-year deal, $6 million. It's a pittance, small deal. There's been some talk about, he can't really create his own shot. He's, but I think this clears $6 million off their book for the next 2 years. This is just assuming that they see more value in taking a flyer on Kyra Lewis than keeping their former EuroLeague MVP on a longer-term deal, who's not really playing for them very much right now. He's 29 years old. I think he fits better with what the Raptors want to do personally. But yeah, I mean, I think it'll depend. And plus, Darko knows him. Darko, Serbian connection there. Maybe he would be unlocked in Toronto. So that's a hypothetical. How are we feeling so far? I got 92 comments. Abu saying, I like Vezenkov. Perfect fit for Darko's system. Yep. Our Otto will get at least the first for him. I think it depends. Okay. So all of these deals that I proposed kind of had the Raptors, trading away a good player for a worse player, or trading away a flyer for a flyer. Like, obviously, no one is expecting you to get better because you trade for Svi Mykhailiuk. It was like mainly those trades were all for picks, younger players, etc. Bruce Brown helps you more probably right now than Kevin Huerter, but maybe Kevin Huerter fits more on your timeline. He's 25 years old. You can grow with Scotty, Grady, RJ, and Immanuel Quickley. Probably be a serviceable part of that. Probably replaces Gary Trent Jr. in your lineup. He's definitely not much worse as a defender than Gary Trent Jr. I'll tell you that much. And he rebounds much better too. And he's a better passer, and he's a better shooter. He's just probably like a worse shot creator than Gary Trent, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Okay. So now we go to the buying trades. Now, this is, I mean, I don't want to call it this buying trades, but this is more like empty out the war chest. Now, you'll notice in all of those trades, for the most part, the Raptors didn't like go big. They didn't like make a deal for like Lauri Markkanen or Herb Jones or DeJounte Murray, where it's like, okay, here goes. I don't think I've ever seen a red super sticker. That kind of like caught me off guard. Thanks, Danish. Appreciate that. You were the person who called in yesterday as well, right? Home run hitters. Knicks should trade a first rounder to get back RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley. Oh my God. Bro, I'm from New York, but New York public schools, bro. New York public schools. They have failed you miserably, bro. Okay. All right. Okay. On with this. Okay, my first trade is for Lauri Markkanen. This is the one y'all have been waiting for, right? What will Rob give for Lauri Markkanen? Here goes. Okay. I mean, I don't want to move Grady Dick. I don't want to be trading for first round picks, but this is where we're at. This would be my offer. I don't know if they take it, but it's a pretty decent offer. Let's just put it that way. the Raptors give up the 2020, both 2024 picks. They give up their 2024 second round pick by Detroit, which is basically like another first round pick. It's a really valuable pick because it's likely to be 31st, regardless of where the Pistons finish in the lottery. Their second round pick is not affected. So at worst, it's going to be a 32nd pick. That's a really valuable pick. So you're basically giving up 3 picks that are between 32 and probably 17 in what I'm starting to consider like a slightly deeper draft than I gave it credit for. So that's one. Then you give up the 2026 Indiana top 4 protected. Then you give up 2028 second round, 2029 first round top 8 protected. That's the Raptors pick. And also a 2030 second round pick, as well as Grady Dick, who's just a lottery pick, plus Chris Boucher, plus Gary Trent. And you get back Lauri Markkanen and Kelly Olynyk with no picks. Would you guys do that? I'm curious. How much do you value Jazz say no? Okay. Dan is saying after my initial offer on call, I got nervous. My bad. Why would I make anyone nervous? Did I make you nervous? I'm the nicest person on earth, man. I don't snap at anybody ever. I'm kidding. If I made you nervous, I'm sorry. Okay. So I wish I could pull up a YouTube and just see like how many of you would say yes to that. I'm assuming you guys are saying yes, like from the Raptors side, but no from the Jazz side. Honestly, man, don't be so sure. Like Lauri Markkanen is not Kevin Durant. Okay, you're not going to get like 15 first round picks. I don't give a shit what Danny Ainge wants. If he sees some situation in which he might lose Lauri for nothing or whatever, because Lauri will be an unrestricted free agent at some point, right? After this contract, I believe it's the same situation as OG. Like it'll be unrestricted free agency. If they've got it in their heads that they're not going to be able to keep him, and you have intel from his agent that he wants to be in Toronto, that he can be a part of something, I can't think of a better second star to pair with Scotty and RJ and Immanuel Quickley. Like I think you put those 4 players together, you suddenly have like a beautiful young core. Now, of course, you're giving up a hell of a lot of draft flexibility and equity, and you're cashing in your chips, right? So why do you do this? I don't know. I mean, possibly because Lauri Markkanen is an all-star and he's in his prime and he's like 26 or 27 years old, and he really just fits culturally and aesthetically and play style with how you want to play basketball. Maybe that's it. You know, he helps get a little bit bigger. He can definitely play the 4. He's sometimes even played the 3. He's pretty switchable out there. He's not a great defender by any means. I think this hamstrings you a little bit because the Raptors aren't exactly deep on cap, deep on what you can call it. They're not deep on assets, like future assets, like their draft picks. Like when you look on Fanspo and you start looking at how many picks are available, granted, second round and first round picks both count the same on Fanspo in terms of how they count your picks. And I realized like some teams have a completed depletion of like first round picks, but they just have their second round picks. You see teams like Milwaukee, teams like I think Cleveland, Minnesota, Lakers, Clippers. There's so many teams that just completely lack draft picks for like years and years. And if you do this as the Raptors, you won't be one of them, because if you do this, obviously you're going to convey this year's pick to the Spurs, and then you have a clean sheet. Next year, you own your pick. In this trade scenario, you still retain. Let me tell you what you retain. Sorry, you still retain your own 2025 first round pick to be able to get some talent. You still retain your own 2026 first round pick, your own 2027, your own 2028, your own, and then you give up your 2029 where you have a second round pick. You know what I mean? It's not like you're hamstringing yourself. I think like we need to learn from history, and obviously the one example that we all remember is, well, I don't know if we all remember it. I don't know how old you guys are, but I remember it certainly, which was the Joe Smith scandal, which cost the Minnesota Timberwolves several first round picks during Kevin Garnett's prime. And I really do believe that had they had those picks, they would have been able to build a more competitive roster around Kevin Garnett. So, you know, if you're the Raptors, you're looking at this from the perspective of these first round picks will potentially be able to be, I don't know, whether they're used or whether they're traded, they're going to allow us to be a little bit more mobile on the trade market when we're building around the edges of a Scotty Barnes timeline. And you certainly don't want to be in a situation where he approaches his second free agency, which would be the free agency where he can technically leave, and you're stuck, in the middle after playoff disappointment, and you can't offer him support, you can't offer him a second star, you can't trade anything, and you're stuck long term. Like, I think, in that situation, you risk losing him. So I think the Raptors, for the Raptors, you have, I know people don't talk about it very much, and I don't talk about it very much because I don't want to speak anything negative into existence. But anytime you have a player of this magnitude at 22 years old, the clock is on. It's already on. You have to sell him, you have to woo him, and he has to buy in long term to your vision. You have to buy in long term to his vision. This is the way we are in the NBA now. There's no you play power forward and that's it. If you're a superstar, you're going on the superstar pipeline, you're not doing anything you don't want to do on the basketball court. And hopefully you don't abuse that power, but that's the power players have today. Okay. You don't want to play, you're not going to play. Look at what Spencer Dinwiddie is doing in Brooklyn right now. He's not a superstar. Even he's going to do this, right? Ben Simmons, all sorts of players have been able to do this. So I just think that if you're the Toronto Raptors, you really, really need to think about long-term how he wants to play, what kind of teammates he wants to play with, what his goals are for himself. I think these all are questions that need to be explored. You want to be an all-star? You want to be an MVP? All these things. I don't think he's a personal kind of guy, but I think he's more like a team guy. And if you can get a competitive roster around this guy where I want to explain this after I talk about the next trade. I'm just going to put it in my mind to just say why it's harder to lose superstars than ever. Okay, this is the next trade. Herb Jones, Larry Nance for Bruce Brown, both picks in 2024, as well as a 2026 second round pick. Would you guys do this? More importantly, would the Pelicans do this? Now, I think the Pelicans do this because it offers them a little bit of cap flexibility. They are a small market team. I also think they don't lose a hell of a lot in this exchange. Naturally, I think Bruce Brown is a better shooter. A better player than I think Herb Jones is a much better player than Bruce Brown, and you're compensating them 2 picks. Would you need to give up more than that is my question. Would you need to give up that 2029 first round pick, top 13 protected? And as we, have learned with the San Antonio pick that we gave up. So for instance, the San Antonio pick that we gave up for the Jakob Poeltl trade, it's top 6 protected this year, next year. And if it doesn't convey in 2026, it automatically turns into 2 seconds. So you could do something similar with your 2029 pick. You could say lottery protected in 2029, top 5 protected or top 6 protected in 2030. And then if it doesn't convey by 2031, it turns into 2 seconds so that you can get off that protection and you open up that pipeline to be able to offer that pickup. So I'm curious now in the comments, do you guys like the Herb Jones trade? Deal. I would never. Oh, that's cool. Thank you so much. Trade happened next year because Laura last year. I don't understand what you mean. Do you mean Laurie is in his last year next year? No way Herb Jones is not worth 2 firsts. Okay. Chad, I hate to reward the person with the consistently dumbest takes by consistently putting their comments up. But I just want to highlight this comment and I want to come back to it a little bit later because it is insanity. If anything, I think that's a bit of an underpay for Herb Jones, but whatever. Let's move on. Bro, he's a 26-year-old and he might be one of the top 4 defenders in the NBA. You just got Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett for a very similar player to OG Anunoby. I don't get it, man. And he's got excellent deal. He's on $12-13 million. You don't watch Herb Jones play. I get it. But you crazy, man. I think he might be worth 3 firsts. Anyways, let me move on from this. It's harder than ever to lose a superstar for the following reason. Number one, obviously the rookie supermax, then the designated veteran supermax. Like I think more so than ever, smaller market teams are able to keep their stars longer. Naturally, you do encounter certain situations with like generational superstars who can just leave. But I think more often, more effort has been paid in the CBA to make sure that stars stay with their teams a little bit longer. And I think, if you're looking at this from the perspective of the Raptors long term, if you want to keep Scotty Barnes, I think if you sign him, you keep him, he's on your team, year 8, year 9, he then becomes eligible for the same supermax that, the designated veteran supermax that Pascal Siakam wanted, but whatever the hell that's going to be at that point, it might be $100 million a year by the time Scotty Barnes gets up with that contract, just to let you know where the cap is going. So as these numbers get bigger and bigger for the NBA, the gap between what you leave on the table and what you take when you leave off the table, like no one is walking away from $120 million. And like, when you consider, like, I just want to project forward for a second. What is Scotty Barnes' contract? If his career goes as we expect, what would that contract look like so he signs 2026. It's 2025, 2026, next deal kicks in. So 2030, whatever. So in 2030, what's that contract going to look like when he's like 27, 28 years old, or 29 years old, and he's approaching that year where he's going to be able to get that like super max? It's probably going to be like 90 to $100 million a year. And then there's going to be a 5th year on top of it if the CBA doesn't change at that point. Like, you really are talking about like a very, very compelling case to be able to keep the guy. Also, it's very hard to absorb a player that big without gutting your team. Like, you have to be a cap space team. It's very rare. So I think you'll probably be able to keep him like really long term. One would hope. I know people are traumatized by Vince leaving, Bosch leaving, et cetera, but the CBA has been drastically amended to make that less likely to happen in the future. Cass saying, is there a trade for Trey Murphy III? No, because there's no reporting that they would move him. But if they would move him, I think the reason they would move him, and the only reason I believe they would move him, is because they have Dyson Daniels. And I think Dyson Daniels is really good, like incredibly good. And he's also cheaper. And he does a lot of the same stuff that Herb Jones does. I think that's like one way of looking at this, is like they have an abundance of depth at the wing position, and they could potentially trade Herb for something they need a little bit more. Is that something they need a little bit more, like what I offered? I have no idea. What is Herb Jones's player comp? I don't think there is a player comp for Herb Jones, to be honest. Like, he's a one of one for me in the NBA. He's super switchable. He's incredibly versatile. Herb is one player I'd overpay for. Yeah, me too, man. Like transition offense requires defense. Herb is like probably one of the better point of attack, help side defenders. He's super smart. He's like a really good dude too. Like, he really fits in with what you want to do. Jonathan Isaac might be a bit much. I think Jonathan Isaac is like more of an event defender. By event defender, I mean like he's more disruptive in the sense that he creates more blocks, steals. He's like a havoc defender. I think Herb is like a little bit more conservative. He's not like Andre Karolinko. Like, to me, Jonathan Isaac is like Andre Karolinko is like Cooper Flagg. You know what I mean? Like, that type of defender is like, yeah, like Herb Jones is he's a little bit more conservative as a defender. I would compare him to OG Anunoby. I think he's like pretty OG Anunoby like, but yeah. Bruce for Hawkins. Yeah, it's not happening. Herb is OG with better transition plays. Yeah, I think he's OG in a small market with less PR hype, man. I think you get back a lot of what you lost with OG Anunoby if you get Herb Jones, and he's about the same age as OG Anunoby as well. So Nadim C, but we need length. Well, Herb Jones is like a 7-foot wingspan. Is that not enough length? Maroon Prince, Herb Jones, 4 years, $60 million. Yes. Now we're thinking, yes, this is crazy value. Eddie Jones, I don't think so. No. Yeah, I don't know what Herb Jones's player comp is. Player comps are hard in that sense, but yeah, I think. Who does he remind me of? Michael Cooper? Like, that's crazy. Um, hey Rob, Lowry plus Jaime is not going anywhere. Just it's not happening. It's very difficult to get rookies who perform really well. Like their market value is so high when they're rookies, it just doesn't usually happen. Yes, we already Jans. Are you the same Jans from Twitter Spaces? That would be hilarious. Nikola Jovic, yeah, man. Like I think Jovic is a great pickup. He's also one of the more improved players. Jovic and Day'Ron Sharp are two players I would love to target if the teams that have them would be willing to give them up. Oh wow. Okay. Michael Cooper or AC Green. Jovic first and salary filler for Bruce Brown. I think you're massively overestimating the value of Bruce Brown, dude. Like I think he's valuable, but I think Jovic is also very, very valuable. I don't think you're going to be able to get that, Bruce. Unblock me, Pensar. Not a chance in hell, bro. I mean, you keep talking, you might get blocked here too. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. I'll see you guys after the game. We already set up the live stream for the post game tonight. I apologize if I was not super well spoken today or if I was a little bit snippy. I am very tired in terms of just overall exhaustion. I've just been like a little bit annoyed with all the Pascal Siakam shit that's been coming out like the last few days. I am just ready to settle it. I'm ready to move on. I'm hoping that the Raptors can have a beautiful game tonight. Obviously, facing OG Anunoby is going to be tough. I kind of get the feeling that RJ is going to get booed. It's just a feeling. It's a feeling. I feel like he's going to get booed. I feel like he knows he's going to get booed. I feel like he doesn't want to get booed. But honestly, if I was him, with all the shit that New York fans have said about him since leaving, I know he's a nice Canadian boy, but I would just been like, go fuck yourself. Like I would have just been like that. And I would have just taken all the booze, like, you know, like Tracy McGrady or Vince Carter when they come back. Just embrace the booze, man. What a beautiful feeling that RJ could have just being booed by the entire Garden. Like it's not like he wasn't booed while he was playing there. So obviously, as an opposing team, you know, he's obviously gonna get booed. I think he gets booed. Anyways, I think he should embrace it. I hope the moment is not too big for him because, like, you know, but I don't think it will be. I think he plays well. I'm more worried about Immanuel Quickley tonight. But yeah, RJ for 40 tonight. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about player props and all that shit. And I feel like every single time I talk about this stuff, I don't know if you guys know this, but I've never been like pro sports betting and stuff like that, right? So I tend to not say like, oh, this guy's gonna have a really big game, because then, you know, someone messages me after and be like, oh, I bet for him over 25 and then he hit like 12 points. I've been offered like sponsorships by tons of betting apps. I've always said no. And then at some point I'm just like, is costing myself $20,000 a year on sponsorships like really worth it to make a moral stand on how I feel about betting apps? And yeah, I think it is. I think it is. Okay. Why is this sticker still showing up? This is the weirdest super sticker ever, dude. Like, what am I not getting about this sticker? Is this like, do you know what I mean? Like, what's up with this sticker? Why is it red? And why is it still on the screen? Dennis, did you accidentally give like $139 and it's just not, it's showing 139? Can someone tell me? Because, okay, so basically a super sticker stays for as, basically if you give like $2 super sticker, it stays for a certain amount of time, right? I don't get it. That was a 100 sticker. What does that mean? No, help me understand. Because basically this super sticker is red. I haven't seen a red super sticker before, unless it was like a $300 or something, I think. I think there's a color codedness to this. And I don't understand it because it's still on the screen, but it says $1.39. It's 100 emoji sticker. What does that mean though? Yeah, I don't get it. Because, like, obviously, the super sticker, the longer it stays, the more it costs. So this is like a crazy amount of money. But, like, why does it say $139? I don't get it. It's $1. Super chats expired. They just stay up top. Stickers just stick. Okay. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you so much for clarifying that. I had no idea. I guess like no one has ever sent like 100 emoji. Hey Rob, did I miss your 2 cents on Coloco? Yeah. No, I don't think you did. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I've responded to Coloco. I've responded at the Coloco thing. Obviously, I was very stunned when we found out live on air that it happened, and it's really sad that the details of it got out. But I hope he'll be back soon. There have been players who've recovered, and I remain very, very hopeful that he'll be back at some point this summer. That would be great. IQ is going to go off tonight. I'm calling it. That'd be great. I'd be very happy for him, and he deserves it. I hope Scotty has a big game too. And honestly, like we did a poll on Pinsar Basketball on Twitter, and interestingly enough, like more than 90% of you, or close to 90% of you, believe Scotty Barnes deserves to be an All-Star, or that he does, but his team is too bad. So effectively, y'all are saying he's a top 25 player. Now, someone yesterday was telling me that Paolo is probably like a good bid for All-Star, and I'm like, why? Why is Paolo going to be an All-Star? Like his team is 8th. Right? So I feel like if Scotty can have a couple of good games right now, he can make it. This whole notion that you can't make All-Star because your team is bad, that's bullshit. LaMelo Ball has made All-Star before. So I think, yeah. What do I think of Rui Hachimura? I think Rui Hachimura is a pretty talented player that I don't like very much. Kuzma has more votes than Scotty. Yes, because Kuzma is getting votes from apparently fashionistas across the world for his massive clout and following on social media. Anyways, take care, guys. I'll see you guys after the game around 10 o'clock. And then after that, I'll be on Twitter Spaces, probably talking about what we saw. In terms of the matchups, I'm very curious to see who is going to get the Scotty assignment tonight and who's going to get the RJ assignment. Because someone was telling me they think OG is going to get the RJ assignment, and I'm just like, then Scotty's going to go off. Scotty versus OG is going to be really interesting. I'm for it, man. I want to see this game. I'm super hyped, right? Yeah, I don't get what's going on here. Zazu space is mass chaos. Danish, are you ready to be the #1 most watched YouTube channel in Canada before the end of this year? Hell yes, sir. Hell fucking yes, I am. Yeah, man, I played this small for like, like the first few years. I didn't call on contacts. I didn't try to leverage anything. I didn't like ask friends to do favors. I didn't do any of that shit. I didn't really even look for sponsors. Any sponsors we looked for, they found us. But yeah, man, there's a way to take this so much further. We just had our first video hit 200,000 views. That's dope. I'm not too like, I just want to be clear. I don't care. I care because it pays more, but I don't really care. I'm not like gassing myself up because the video got 200,000 views. I know exactly why it got 200,000 views. So yeah. Island designated drivers. Why don't you post yourself on a podcast? I'd listen to your stuff when I'm out and about. Yeah, man. I didn't want to split my audience because I didn't think our audience was large enough to split. And that's probably like a really stupid way to think about it, because obviously like if you post your shit on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, you find a new audience as well. So I just wanted to make sure that the core audience here was large enough. I think like a lot of people that I've seen, they over diversify their content very early, like too early in my opinion. Like you see, like they get like, I don't know, 100 views on YouTube for their podcast, and they're trying to like get like, they're like, oh, by the way, follow us on Apple, Spotify, whatever. I'm just like, yo, bro, like collect your shit on one platform and then put it out, you know? So in terms of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Patreon, whatever, I just didn't want to deal with 15 different platforms when one platform was so small. It just didn't make sense. So now that this has grown a little bit, I can certainly see us moving over to another as well, and maybe expanding out. It is definitely on my to-do list for the year. Yeah. Any chance you bring that Laker podcast guy back? Dude, he came back on the Collins show a couple of days ago. The Scotty Barnes, the post game, the last game. He was on there. Yeah, he's great. I'm sure he'll call back plenty of times. Yeah, absolutely. I wanna extend it, you know, like here's the thing. We just became a little bit bigger on X as well, Twitter. So this time last year, I don't even think we had a Twitter account. If we did, it was like 2 followers. Nothing. Now we post on Twitter. We get a lot more. I'm active in the spaces. We're growing. Like I know where this is going in like a year from now. It's going to be much bigger than it is today. I just hope when I get there that I'm more balanced mentally. If you know what I mean, like that I'm not snapping at people like this way. So yeah. I saw him briefly. Yeah, I mean we had like a 15-minute discussion about what he saw with Scotty, and I think it was a pretty good discussion. Yeah. If you want to hear a really cool discussion, check out yesterday's. You check out yesterday's live with what's his name, Lil Jon. Like he was the last caller. I loved it. Like we had a really good conversation about Siakam's defense, trades, etc. I'm not on Twitter much. Good for you. Yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Support as always. Gary Trent Jr. is going to be a Laker. I'll root for him wherever he goes. Yeah. Bueno Kitty, it's lack of sleep. Tolerance levels go down. Coffee intake up. Bro, your nerves get shot. I fully agree with this. Yeah, it is a lack of sleep. Anyways, thank you to everybody who tuned in. We'll catch you guys after in the post-game show. And hey, look at that cool graphic. And that is, of course, a picture of Scotty saying, why, my brother? Why did he need to go? And, you know, it's RJ Barrett looking furiously over at the Knicks garden. I don't know. I hope this graphic was worth, you know, the 5 minutes it took to make it. I'll talk to you guys after the post game. And hey, man, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the super sticker. Appreciate it. Super chat. Oh shit. Yeah, I was supposed to go back to this. Chad Wellington, Bruce Brown and 2 firsts is too much for Herb Jones. Okay, here's the thing. I'm going to make a new policy from now on. Okay, I'm going to stop highlighting the dumbest takes. I just want to stop. I think it's low hanging fruit. And if you're really frustrated, obviously, with something, then it just makes sense to, you know, keep pointing out the dumbest shit. And I feel like people pick up on this and then they just keep saying dumber and dumber shit. So I'm just going to try to ignore the stupidest things I hear. Okay. So if DeAnthony Melton is some trash ass player who's worse than Bruce Brown, congratulations. You don't understand basketball. And that's cool. You know, it's cool to not understand basketball. There's nothing wrong with not understanding basketball. That's perfectly fine. You know, but we need to stop highlighting the dumbest shit on earth. It's like, again, like if I go out there and be like, Scotty Barnes is better than LeBron James, 1,000 retweets calling me an idiot. Why? Because I said something crazy. Now, obviously, if I want to blow up, and I mean, the crazier you are, by the way, if you say something crazy, I kid you not, there's going to be like someone out there who agrees with you, right? If I say Scotty Barnes is better than LeBron James, I'll tell you, like, if there's 500 retweets about that, because they're just like, look at this person, he's so stupid, at least 10% of it is going to be like, yeah, because LeBron James is a fraud and he's woke and he's this. And it's just like, why are people so angry? And why am I getting angry about people being angry? Fuck it. I just don't want to. Paul, I think that's a test. Okay. I think that's a test to see if I'm going to fall for it. And I'm not going to fall for it. Okay. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, our road to 8,000 subscribers. That 8 is going to look good, man. All right. Take care. Appreciate it. See you, man.